Matthew Sorens joins us now. He is the Vice President of Advocacy and Policy at World Relief. Matthew, welcome. Good to see you. So World Relief has been watching the situation closely in Minnesota. Can you tell us more about the cases you're hearing about, Matthew, and what prompted World Relief to take this stand?
Yeah, starting this weekend, we got word that a number of refugee families, so to be really clear, these are families who were invited by the U.S. government to come to the United States and rebuild their lives in the U.S. because they had fled a well-founded fear of persecution for reasons like their faith or their political opinion, their race. A number of refugee families who were lawfully present had immigration officers show up at their door and ask to come in some cases under false premises, claiming to be people whom they were not. And when allowed in, they were detained. And at this point, we know that a number of families have been moved to Texas. We're not entirely sure of what's happening, but this is affecting, we believe, dozens of refugees at this point who are lawfully present, who are now held in detention. And of course, they're very fearful that they could be returned to their countries of origin where they initially fled persecution for reasons like their faith in Jesus.
So this statement from World Relief is about as forceful as one that I've ever seen from this organization. You call the operation in Minnesota a 5-alarm fire, shameful and unpatriotic for preying on children and families who are here after fleeing violence, and as you mentioned before, here at the invitation of the United States. So what exactly is it that you're wanting to see?
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's really important to note this does include children who are being detained by our government at this point. It also includes, parents picked up on their way to work and children left home alone when a parent didn't show up. And again, there's important conversations to be had about how we enforce laws in humane ways that honor the law for those who have violated immigration law. This is a distinct category of people who are here lawfully because they fled persecution and because our government invited them to come. So we'd really like the federal government to stop this operation. They're calling it Operation Paris. We would like the legal rights of refugees to be respected, and we'd really like the church to rally around refugee communities, including those persecuted for their faith in Jesus, and say this is not, we want the worst of the worst deported. I think we all want that. These are not the worst of the worst. These are lawfully present refugees who've not been charged with any crime in any cases that we're aware of, who have gone about the process that our government has established for them.
Matthew, as a follow-up, you just mentioned the worst of the worst. In a broader sense, illegal immigration has been an issue for presidents for decades. Supporters of ICE in this current administration might say all of the tactics we see are attempts at righting wrongs that have been going on for years, and that can be messy and difficult. What's the position of World Relief when it comes to the broader context of immigration?
Yeah, we have no objection to ICE detaining and, of course, giving due process to, but eventually deporting people who've been convicted of serious criminal offenses. The hard reality, and I live in the Chicagoland area where ICE has been very present, that's been less than 3% of the immigrants detained by ICE who have been convicted of a violent crime, and the majority have not been convicted of any crime at all. And now what we're seeing in Minneapolis is actually escalating that to another level to go after immigrants who are lawfully present in the country. The reason ICE knows where they live is because they have been reporting their address changes as they're supposed to the federal government. So we want to see people who are threats to public safety detained and deported. I think the vast majority of Americans want that. Evangelical Christians want that, clearly. But I think it's a mistake for the administration to think that most evangelical Christians or most Americans of any background want to see lawfully present immigrants who have followed all the rules be detained and separated have their families separated in many cases. To see children held in detention facilities is not something that I think our country should be doing.
Yeah, taking this stance, are you concerned that maybe some of your supporters, maybe some of your donors, might push back against this and the backlash potentially you could see?
I think our supporters, who are Christians, and the vast majority of them, are with varying political opinions, but this is something, we've done polling with Lifeway Research. The vast majority of evangelical Christians believe that the U.S. has a moral responsibility to receive refugees. 70% or so of evangelical Christians said that earlier. Well, I guess it was in 2025 at this point. So our supporters are usually held within that 70%, and regardless of who's president, they want to see our laws enforced. This is not enforcing our laws. This is going after people who are lawfully present. The Romans chapter 13 says that government should be a terror to those who do what is wrong, but it should be protecting the rights of those who do what is right. And if you do what is right, you should have nothing to fear from the government. This is an instance where government has gone wrong because people who have done everything right, in fact, who are here because of their faith in certain cases, are fearing persecution from the U.S. government. And that's not what the government should be doing.
All right, Matthew Sorens with World Relief, thank you so much for being with us tonight.